You good?
Yeah, all right. Things seem slightly brighter now, don't they?
They really do. Yeah, it's like it's actually sunny outside. I know I'm like sitting here in the dark, but like it's actually it's actually really nice outside.
Yeah, I know. I always shut the blinds in this room when I do it because of these things you read on the internet about the best environment for a podcast. It's like, oh yeah, shut every window.
Does it?
Shut. Yeah, but I mean, it's not very unnecessary for something like this, I think.
No, your podcast is amazing. I listened back to the Ed Warren episode. I loved it.
Oh, nice one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you? You say you're in the studio at the minute.
No, this is I'm in my house. It doesn't look that exciting on the podcast, but I was in the studio about 10 minutes ago, and I ran from the studio to back home. So I've got to go, and I sent all the lads I was working with home, and made my way back home, just sitting in my flat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in London, sunny East London.
East London, all right. Whereabouts?
I live over in Hackney.
Okay.
Hackney, aka Coachella. You know, the festival that never ends. Like people out there who are just like, you go outside the front door, and I've been calling it Coachella for like the last year. It's absolutely bonkers out there. It's just nuts. Like Hackney's like a festival right now. It has been for about a year. Like I frown upon it, yet I'm also having to walk my dog to have a wee. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I used to live in Hackney. I used to live in Stoke Newington. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's a nice
Rectory
place.
Road. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice place. Yeah, I'm by Hackney Central.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and it's sunny outside right now, and people are buzzing, and the pub's open, and I just had to like walk past hundreds of people having a great time.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, no. I don't want to join in with that. I'm just like, cool. You guys have a good one. I'm going home. I'll just talk to you. You guys, like, I'm not missing out on anything.
Yeah, I haven't been to the pub yet. Weirdly.
No, I don't want to go either.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I'll probably end up going. Sounds a bit sad, but I reckon I'll probably end up going with me and my dog one day during the day.
That's great.
But, otherwise, I'm not really fussed until everything is properly open, kind of thing.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like the right time. Like I'm walking past there, you can see people outside. I'm not complaining. Like I'm definitely not the one to judge anybody. My judgment has gone out the window this last year. But yeah, it doesn't quite feel right yet. And everyone in the pub seems to be. It's just like it's never happened.
Yeah. I'd rather wait a bit. Although with this weather, it's very tempting to have a nice pint. But I'm sure I will do at some point.
I don't drink anymore, but I want you to have a pint.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. Well, I guess it's not very linear question, but yeah, what brought you to that decision and not to drink anymore?
Oh, thank you, mate. Well, I think if alcohol and drugs were a game, I completed them. I think that like I really went for it, for a long period of time, and I got to, I don't know, like I realized it just got to a point where I was like behaving in a way, not like regularly, but like I behaved in a way that I had done years before. And I realized that I wouldn't have behaved in that way if I hadn't have been drunk. And I didn't want to behave like that ever again. And I just thought I need to do something about this. And I realized that I've been an alcoholic and a drug addict for a really long time. And I walked into an AA meeting and sat and thought about my life, and I realized that I'd been drinking since I was like 12 years old, and I think I got to 39, I just think I completed it, and I realized that like it was just something that I didn't want in my life anymore, and like life was good, like I'm having a good time, like work's good, home life was good. And then like I'd get out of my mind and I'd just behave in a way that I didn't want to. And it wouldn't happen all the time, but it happened once, and it happened like a couple of years before. And that was it. I just thought I don't want to be that person anymore. And I need to like just do the right thing for myself. And so I decided to get sober and look at myself, look at my emotional problems, and I went on that journey from like September 2019. And it's absolutely awesome for me. It's like best thing I ever did. It's the kind of short version of the story,
Yeah.
Is
that something you found easier during lockdown, or has it been harder, or have you kind of turned a corner in that respect anyway?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I haven't had a day where I've thought about getting a drink. Like, my relationship with drinking and doing drugs is like over. But you know, I think it is quite remarkable in a sense, and because, you know, the stress that's happened in the last since last March has been remarkable, you know, and people that I've spoken to about how things are going and, you know, keeping up to date with, I've just been like given congratulations for not going back to alcohol at any point. And it's mad because, like, I think that once I made a decision and I've been through, like, looked at my emotional problems and like I came out the other side of it, I just know it's just not something I want to get back to. And I'm lucky, I think, because it's not something that like pops up for me to think about that I want to do. Like, and life's good without it. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, my only worry about the whole thing is that people won't call me to go to the pub. Like, I want to hang out with my mates, you know, and I can see like my mates are going to the pub, and I'm like, hey, like, yeah, I still want to come, but yeah, I just like, I'm done with getting out of my mind, which I did really well for a really long time, you know.
You had a good go of it, yeah.
Yeah, I completed it, man. Like, you know, I absolutely completed it. I gave it a really good shot for a really long time, and I did a pretty good job, and then I did a pretty bad job, and then it was just like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah,
yeah, what's that like? I mean, I have met people who don't drink, but do you find you're able to like drink and have a good, and not drink and have a good time in the pub kind of thing?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, like, I don't want to like not have fun. Like, that's like not having, that would be a nightmare. Like, if I given up drinking and stopped having fun, then I don't know, I'd be incredibly boring and incredibly bored, I think. But like, I don't know, yeah, it's fine. I mean, but what's mad about it is like, you're just always the same person, you know. Like, you wake up the same person that you were the day before, and not only that, like, it puts you, there's nothing to like hide behind. I think like I used to hide behind alcohol and hide behind getting smashed all the time, and like, if there were things that I knew that I needed to confront and I wasn't ready to do that, I certainly wasn't ready to do it for a long time, I would just like go out and get smashed and like forget about it, and tomorrow I'd feel different and forget it happened. But when you're sober, you've got to go through your shit, you know. And it's hard, but it's also absolutely awesome. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm riding the ups and downs of this last year, but not drinking and having fun is a massive part of it, you know. And I'm doing this because I'm saying, like, if you're having a party, please invite me to it. I want to come.
All right, cool. I'm sure we'll touch on that stuff later, but yeah, if we go back a bit, obviously we had Ed Warren on the podcast too.
Yeah.
Ed, was it Southampton you were uni together?
Yeah, he outed me about some stuff that I whatever. I was like, oh wow, thanks, mate. But yeah, I met Ed Warren in 1997, something like that. We were both working for a company that sold double glazing, and I was sitting in there, and one afternoon, this guy just walked in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon eating a kebab, wearing an Adidas t-shirt, wearing an Adidas, like, you know, 90s like Oasis jacket, eating a kebab. And I was just like, yep, this guy's a legend. Like, what's happening here? Why is he eating a kebab at 3 o'clock? And he ended up sitting next to me, and we worked for this company where, like, he's a funny dude, and we would just like, you know, the job was to like call people up and be like, hey, so we're not trying to sell you anything, but like, would you by any chance buy these windows? And like, you didn't have to sell them anything. You just had to get them to say that they would receive another call. And then you put the phone down, and then somebody else at the end of the table would call them. And so we just spent like the whole time winding each other up and like trying to, the funniest things to get people to accept that they take another phone call from somebody. And, you know, Ed's been funny from day one. And we worked there. We went to college together in the New Forest, a place called Brockenhurst. And we were both there. And then I lived in his house when he was at university. I'd been to university in London, and I came back from university in London, and I got a job working in a record shop. And Ed was at university in Southampton, and I went and lived in their house, and they sort of put me up. I lived there and had fun for a couple of years. And then we both took a job in another record shop in Southampton together. And then he left the job at the record shop in Southampton to go on tour with Delays. And that was the beginning of his journey. And yeah, so we had a really good, like, you know, from like 16, 17 until we were like 21 hanging out, you know.
Yeah.
He's a very, very good old friend of mine. and a funny human being.
Yeah, and he said, you know, around that early 2000s period that you were actively writing music that was similar to the Strokes before you'd even heard the Strokes. Like, what were you up to at that point?
Thank you. Yeah, I was quite grateful that you said that. It's weird because I would like never recognize that, but I was living in a house with Ed. I was waiting to get the job at the record shop, and I was listening to records, and I was just hanging out and getting stoned basically, and like having a great time listening to records and going to nightclubs. But at home, like I had a 4-track cassette recorder set up, and like I was just really into like the Velvet Underground, really into the Stooges, and like all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, there's this band that are already doing that thing that I thought could be a thing. Like we were listening to, like me and my girlfriend at the time, and like all our friends around us were like really into like 60s music, 70s music, psychedelia, but particularly like the Velvet Underground and the Stooges. And yeah, I just thought that would be a thing for a band. And I'd gone and bought I'd bought a suit, and I'd had this t-shirt, and I was going to write the Stooges on this t-shirt because in Southampton there was no shop to buy a t-shirt, whatever. And then all of a sudden I opened the NME, and it was like, this band sells like Stooges and the Velvet Underground. And I was like, oh my God, I got to check this out. I heard the Modern Age EP and was like, fuck, okay, these guys have actually done it. This is amazing. And all my friends went completely nuts for it. And we, as Ed said, we went to early gigs of theirs in Brighton. And I was converted from the Modern Age EP. And I was jealous because I thought that was like the idea that I'd had. And I remember my Stroke story from that period is like, it must have been MySpace, because they wouldn't have been on Friends. Was it Friendster? I can show myself up here. But whatever.
You might, what 2001? Yeah.
It must have been MySpace. No, because MySpace wasn't until like 2006.
Nah, yeah. I don't know what it had been at that point.
Was it like Friendster or something? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Someone will tell me whatever it was. But there was a way to contact the Strokes on the social media, and I wrote to the Strokes inbox, and I was like, massive fan of the band. Really want to sound like the band. Love the band. Like, I play the guitar. Can you tell me how to do it? And I got an email back, and it was like from Ryan Gentles, and it was just like, yes, this is how we did it. We used this pedal, we plugged it into this amp, we used this guitar, and this is how we did it. And I just wrote back like, holy shit, I cannot believe that you've told me like how to sound like the Strokes. And he was like, yeah, don't worry, mate, you're not going to be the Strokes, you're never the Strokes, and good luck to you. And I was just like, that's fucking awesome.
What, he literally wrote that?
That kind of thing, you know. It was not, right. It was that kind of thing. It, not like maliciously, but just like the Strokes are the Strokes. You'll never be like them. It's absolutely fine for us to share this information with you, and please go ahead and use it, you know. And I was just, from that day forward, like anyone that's ever asked me anything, I've just told them everything, and like, you know, yeah, I'm just a massive fan. Like, there's an absolute massive fan. I couldn't believe they'd written to me, and then I went out and bought the pedal that sounded like them. And
was that the Jekyll and Hyde one? Was it?
I'll tell you what it was. Right, it was an MXR. Just a, what do you call it? It's like a booster. It's not even a pedal of any sort. It's like a micro amp. It was a white MXR micro amp, and they're tiny. And basically, they just like put more gain on it before it hits the amp. And he told me that was the only thing they were using, and I was like, amazing. I went and got myself one.
Cool. So yeah, so did you have a band together at that point? Then what were you doing at that point?
No, I didn't. There was a band. I've been in bands before, but like I wasn't in a band at that point. And there was a cool band who were like a psychedelic band who had like an organ player as the kind of main feature, who like were up the road, and they were amazing. And I kind of like jammed a little bit with those guys sometimes, but I wasn't like in their band. And I was planning on forming a band, but I had a 4-track cassette recorder basically, and I was writing songs. And I hadn't like really dived into songwriting like by completing a song at that point, but I've always like messed around with 4-track cassette recorders, and I've always like had a home, even like a small level, like, you know, just making stuff at home. And I was just plugging the guitar into a 4-track and writing songs at home that sounded a bit like the Velvet Underground and a bit like the Strokes. And I made like 4 or 5 different things like that, but I never had the intention to start a band. And then basically what happened was the guy who was the manager of the record shop at the time that me and Ed were working for was like the coolest guy I ever met, became my mentor, was just like the guy that got us into loads of incredible music and showed us how to behave like in a bad way when working in a record shop in the early noughties, when you could smoke and swear at people all day long. And like he and I formed a band, and that was a bit more, it was like an electro clash band basically. And we I'd given up on that. I played the guitar a little bit on it, he played the guitar, but the sort of guitar based rock and roll stuff, I never actually wrote any songs, finished any songs in that way. And then I made this other band where I was playing the what's it called? It's called a roll and groove box, and I was making like beats, and then the guy, we'd write songs where I'd make beats and sounds, and then we had a drummer and a singer, and we were heavily influenced by like Electro Clash, which was kind of like at the same time as the Stroke stuff in 2001. So yeah, I was working in a record shop and doing that, and getting drunk and having a really good laugh and going to nightclubs and sleeping in someone else's house.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, when you, I'll obviously ask you how you formed the Klaxons, but
Yeah.
or Klaxons, it's not those.
No, I appreciate it.
But did you kind of spot, I mean, you know, it's been a lot of talk in this podcast about things becoming a bit oversaturated and everyone jumping on the Strokes thing. Did you kind of want to do something different in terms of music, or were you always inclined to do that anyway?
Well, I'd already, like, you know, as I think Ed was telling some stories, like we were massive fans of the Strokes, massive fans of the Libertines, like to begin with. We followed both of them around. But when it came to making music, like that wasn't something that I wanted to do. Like I said, like I made like an Electro Clash band, and I was more influenced by that sound and like those kind of records, and like making electronic music was more exciting to me, but then putting a guitar on it and the I don't know what you call it, like the kind of like art punk stuff, like what's like art, I don't know, I was trying to talk about my mates with this, like what was that called at that time, but like the more kind of stuff with drum machines and electronics I was more excited about than being in a rock and roll band. And as much as I loved like all that stuff from like the early 2000s, I was like wanting to have because I grew up in like Britpop basically, and had like a great time with that music, and then got into dance music in like 1998, like going out watching the Chemical Brothers and stuff at Heavenly Social at Terminals, it was back at the time. And I've just like always been like I've got one foot in indie music and then the other foot in electronic music. And I think that like my love for electronic music, even though like I don't make very good electronic music, has always been really strong. And that's where like I got the most excitement, maybe, like, yeah. And so yeah, I saw myself doing something electronically. So that basically when Klaxons came along and the idea of like making electronic music but on guitars, it was just like I felt like I'd been practicing for that role like for a very long time, you know.
Yeah I guess next the follow-on question tonight is like, how did the band come about then?
So Simon lived with my girlfriend at the time in Nottingham, at Nottingham University, and I used to go up to see her, and he lived at the house with her. And the scene in Nottingham at that time was amazing. And we would go out to what was Ricky Haley's club night called? I wish I could remember. Is it the Social? Do you know that?
I remember people talking about it. I don't think I ever went to it, to be honest.
Yeah, like Ricky Haley was like this guy who basically ran loads of clubs in Nottingham. Like it was just really good fun. And you know, a great time. Like my girlfriend I've known for a long time, and I'd go to see her at university and we'd hang out, and we just had a great time. And the scene in Nottingham was amazing. And it was better. I was living in Southampton at that time, or was I living in London? I must have been living in Southampton. No, I don't know the answer. No, I must have been living. No, I was living in London. I'd moved to London, got the job at the record shop. I'd go to see my girlfriend in Nottingham, and Simon and I and her and all her friends would all go out raving in Nottingham, and it was wild and brilliant. And like there were so many good bands, and that kind of like art rock, like Electro Clash influenced stuff was everywhere, and it felt like everyone was dressing up and having a wild time, and like the music was great. and the drugs were really good, and we were just like having a wild time. And I just looked at everything, and I don't know where I had the idea, but it came from my relationship with Simon Raven in Nottingham. And it was like, okay, we should form a band, because we were like jealous of all the other bands. The other bands were really cool and we wanted one. And we decided to cover It's Not Over Yet by Grace, I think, on a night out in Nottingham. I remember being in the flat and being like, let's cover It's Not Over Yet. And I was like, come on, mate, like finish your degree. Like I've already got a job in London, finish your degree, come down to London. And at that point we'll form a band and we'll get on with it. And I'll go back to London and I'll get the studio sorted out and figure everything out for when you're ready to come down. And then, I don't know, it can't have been that long, like a couple of months went by. And then he ended up moving to London, and he'd moved to London with James, who he grew up with. And I had made a rehearsal space after finishing working at the record shop. I made a rehearsal space in Deptford with Joe Daniel from Angular Records, aka the person I was telling you about who's excited about the podcast and I think you should speak to.
Oh, cool, right.
Yeah. And so Joe Daniel and I Joe Daniel was in a band called the Violets, and I had read about the Violets and Joe Daniel's Angular Records in the NME at the time. And I was just like, made a beeline to become his friend, basically. And we became best friends. And Joe and I then started a music rehearsal space together. And once the rehearsal space was ready to go, I just called Simon and was like, come on, mate, like come down. I've got a rehearsal space. Let's go. I found a couple of other people. I've been on a night out in New Cross, Deptford, and it was either go home or what to do next. And me and the drummer, Finnegan Kidd, we then went to the rehearsal space, and I had a vinyl copy of the Bouncers' Kick Like a Mule, and I just put that on, and I was like, mate, just copy the drum part and I'll play the bass. And then Finn and I covered the Bouncers' Kick Like a Mule in the rehearsal space. And I called Simon. I was like, look, we got Grace Not Over Yet. I've got Kicks Like a Mule down. Just come down. Come on, like we're ready to go. Like let's just do this. And then he turned up, well, whenever it was, like a couple of days later or whatever, with James. And then we locked ourselves in the rehearsal space for like 5 days, I think it was. It wasn't very long at all, but it's 5 days. And at the end of the 5 days, we had all the singles and the whole aesthetic. We had everything ready to go. And then by the end of the 5 days, Joe put us on. Joe booked us for a night at his club night, which was at St. Moritz in Soho. And that was it. That's the short version, the real version of the story. Yes. Simon will recall it, where I was just like laying on the floor drinking cider, absolutely out of my mind. Just like, who is this guy? Is he joking? But we worked really hard for 5 days, and we wrote all the singles, and like a couple, and then we had a couple of covers, and that was it. And then we got rehearsal space, and then we did some shows, and the rest is a known story, I think. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the clothes and stuff. Like, where did the idea for the aesthetic come along? Because obviously it's quite different to. I mean, yeah, I'll just ask that question first. I was just going to go into something else, but I'll stick with that one.
I mean, we were really high and up for being stupid, and like it just came about from like, British rave culture. And it was like, let's take colourful British rave culture. And basically we went to a market in Deptford, and there was like a market day on there. We found this clothing rail, like a bin it was like a clothing bin. And in it were just all these stupid clothes, kids' clothes essentially. And we just picked out the most colourful and stupid stuff that fit us and put it on, and that was that, And then we were basically wearing kids' clothes. And I remember the first thing I ever wore was like an Addy Hash t-shirt. There was like the Adidas logo that said Addy Hash underneath it. And I'd seen those when I was a kid, and I really wanted one. And then it's just like, the idea was just to look like a kid and be stupid and colourful and fun, and I saw some guys wearing shorts yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, we did that as well. It was just like, the clothes were just like, come on, look stupid, look like a kid, go out there raving and don't give a shit. It's the whole thing.
Yeah. And like you said, was that 2005 then?
Yeah, it was, we formed in November 2005, yeah.
Right. And then, I mean, literally 2 years later, you're getting NME Band of the Year and the Mercury Award. Like, what happened?
What the hell? Yeah, the album came out like 14 months and a year after we formed. It's completely mad. You know, we wrote the singles in 5 days. We did a bunch of shows. We were like getting press like straight away. Like the thing was like Joe, and we had friends that worked at Vice magazine, and we had friends that worked at the NME, like a guy that works at the NME, Tim, used our rehearsal space. He had a band that rehearsed at our place. Joe was seriously well connected. We did a gig for the Queens of Noise. It was like our second ever show. Oh, and actually, this is good. It relates to our podcast. I hadn't even thought about this. Jamie from the Rakes. How did I know Jamie from the Rakes? This is what's kind of blowing my mind. But Jamie from the Rakes came to our show for the Queens of Noise, and Jamie from the Rakes went to the NME and was like, "Yeah, you got to check these guys out." And Tim Chester was rehearsing in our space. So between Tim Chester and Jamie Rakes, we were like in at the NME within the first like 2 or 3 weeks. And that was it. Like we basically knew people who worked in the press, and they were our mates, and we got smashed with them, and we told them that we were amazing. And we had the tunes. You know, I think the miracle is like we had the tunes. That's that outburst of like, collaborative energy that we had in those like very short period of time. Like we could go out and we were ready to do it very quickly. It was really weird, you know.
Yeah. And did you see like a following building up pretty quickly as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did that thing. I'm not sure if like the Libertines, I think the Libertines is the right reference, but I remember like I picked up on the idea that if you wanted to make people go crazy in a gig that you didn't know anybody at, then you had to bring people with you to go nuts at the front. And we just brought a couple of our friends. Like our first ever gig was just like full of our mates. We told them what to wear. We told them how to, like, we gave them whistles and glow sticks. And we were just like, yeah, this is what we're doing. Like, we want you to all to dress like this and let's go nuts. So what we didn't know that it was about to snowball out of control, you know, but like it was there from the beginning. And then somebody filmed it on their phone, and we just you know, the mantra of New Rave just like went on and on every day. And I guess like we encouraged people to dress the way they did, and the press being the way that it was, and us having the songs ready to go. And I mean, we certainly weren't a very good band for the first like however long. We literally couldn't play. You know, this footage of the first shows where like we're just rolling on the floor, and like it's just not happening, you know. But that was cool. You know, it was cool we knew we had songs, but like we weren't going to play them, you know. And I don't know, we were just kind of out of our minds and having fun. And did people, yeah, the following just like, it's difficult to remember. It's difficult to remember back the lineage of it, but like just from those early shows, like we encouraged people to wear what they wore and to follow us, and that had made it into the press. And then by the time it was in the press, it just followed us everywhere it went.
Yeah, and I was reading. I was reading today an NME cover you did. I think it was the second one you did. But am I right in thinking you coined the term New Rave? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I basically thought, and then, you know, the name fits into the aesthetic. I can't remember exactly. I remember where I was when I came up with the name Klaxons, but I don't remember where I was when I came up with the term New Rave. I know it was when I was with Joe. It's probably in a rehearsal space, and basically, you know, it was like take New Wave and just put an R on the front of it, and you know, everything that Klaxons did on the first record in some way, or at least on the singles, in some way or another reference rave culture. So I just like, yeah, cool, that's what we are. And I just went around spouting that to everybody that I met, you know. And yeah, that's became what it became. It's so funny. We've been talking about it lately, you know, and it's wild. And I certainly don't think about it on a daily basis, but it was I came up with it and watched it become whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, but I imagine that helps it as well, because we've talked to people like Mark Beaumont, who said, you know, the era before, well, kind of before you guys, I guess, it doesn't, the only term it's known by is the indie landfill, whereas you can kind of separate yourself from that in a more positive light. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know which one's better, but yeah. I know that we're not indie landfill, but I don't know, you know, I don't know in the long term which one of those became preferable, you know.
Yeah, I guess because I don't know. Yeah, I guess before doing this podcast, I might have thought that you guys were almost in competition with some of those bands. But talking to people like Kyle from The View and others, they've always said they were gotten really well with you guys, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, we were friends with everybody. You know, well, I couldn't believe it. We were grateful, and we knew everybody all of a sudden, and we didn't really have any competition, and in the sense that we weren't competitive with anybody else. I mean, we were all about like togetherness and meeting as many people as possible, and loving all the music that's going on around us, and having the best time with everyone that we met. It was like our whole thing. If you were going to punch anywhere, you punch up, but like it very rarely happened. You know, we didn't have like beefs with bands or anything. We were about peace and love and unity, man. Yeah.
Well, not even the Gallagher brothers, did they have a pop at any point?
I thought about that when I saw some of your questions earlier, and I've got something to tell you about that, but I'll save it for your question later on.
Cool. Right, okay, nice one.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like NME and stuff, like you say, you had contacts there. Do you feel they were crying out a bit for a new kind of scene or something different?
I don't know. I mean, what's weird is like when I try to piece back the line of like exactly, because when did the Libertines record come out? 2001?
First one, 2002, I think.
2002. So between 2002 and us at the end of like 2005, there's still quite a lot of time there. But at the NME, I don't know. I mean, I loved NME culture. You know, like I grew up buying the NME from like 13 years old. I went to like the first ever. I couldn't believe it when I look back at the NME Rave tour. I went, which that's what they named it. But what was it called? The NME. What was it called? Like the new band's NME tour. But it's been going on since.
Is it Radar or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember. But like, if you look, I have to look it up. But basically, I wish I could remember the bands that are on it. But I looked it up the other day, and I've been going to that tour that we did since I was a teenager. You know, and I've just been a big fan of the culture forever. And I think personally, just like I was heavily immersed in it with like Libertines and the Strokes. And I was like, I think in 1990, I just don't mind talking about how old I am. I'm 40, you know, and like I was into Britpop, right? But like in 1997, 1998, like it kind of stopped. I think that's when NME culture really needed something else. And I think that when the Strokes came along, and that rejuvenated NME culture because like dance music, UK alternative dance music wasn't big in NME. Like NME band culture wasn't as big as it was up until say the Verve in 1997, right? And then like it felt like NME culture had finished, or just personally I'd gotten more into dance music, you know, so like I didn't really care about the culture so much. But then I'd gone back into it in a big way from the Strokes. And so I don't know, I don't think it needed us to revive its culture. I think it was incredibly healthy, you know, like there were so many bands, so much fun going on. I don't think it needed us to give the NME culture a shake up, but I think that I was just grateful that they embraced us being a alternative dance indie band, you know.
Yeah. There was obviously other bands like CSS. Did that kind of, I don't know, was that all kind of organic in terms of the bands that were just coming out around that time that were similar, or did you kind of obviously gravitate towards each other?
Well, I didn't know about any of them until we were in a band, you know, I think the interesting thing about like New Rave, or about the culture that's happening in the NME with it, was that like if you want to paint a scene, like a scene traditionally will come out of the same place, and you know, there'll be a lot of bands coming from the same place or the same culture or whatever. And New Rave came from all over the world. Like the bands were from all over. It was like internet culture. It was like the first, like, I don't know if it's the first, yeah, probably was, like internet culture for bands, where like, you know, CSS came from Brazil. There were like Australian bands in it, there were French bands in it, there were American bands in it. Like it wasn't specifically that it came out of London. And like, I think that I didn't know about any of that stuff. I didn't like see those bands and then was like, oh cool, we need to form a band to be like that band. Like we were doing what we were doing, and all of a sudden there was this like magical synchronous moment of like bands making alternative, like punk funk was a thing, wasn't it? Like and that just all came together miraculously, you know, and it felt like we kind of sat within that.
Yeah. And in terms of labels, then, like I read that there was a bit of a bidding war. At what point did that kind of happen?
So our first record came out on Angular, which was Joe's label, Joe Daniels' label that I had the space with. And then our second single came out on Me Rock, which was run by Milo Cordell, who went on to make The Big Pink and now works at Young Turks. And he put out the second single, and then the third single came out on Polydor. So I think that the war would have been going on, but at the same time, I mean, we were talking to majors from the off, but like our management was like, no, do things on an indie to start off with, and like we were already so well connected to Joe, and then we met Milo, who became like a mentor and best friend, and so it was the obvious choice to do that. And I think straight from the off, our management was so savvy. When I look back at now what our management did for us and the way that they did it, I'd like to apply that and give that knowledge to other bands, you know. But yeah, it was there from the off because we were getting press from the off, and so our management was sending that to record labels and people in media and culture were coming to our shows like straight away, like from the beginning, you know. And so the when did Magic come out? I don't know. Was it September? I don't know. Yeah, it was September. So it must have taken like 6 months to get the deal done. But we were talking to loads of different labels, and there was like there was one that was particularly heartbreaking that we didn't choose, and otherwise it felt like Polydor just felt like the right home. People there are amazing, and we loved every minute of that experience, you know. And they were just the right home, and it was amazing.
Yeah. I was reading that you met up with Virgin, and something like you made a joke about saying, if you're going to sign us, you got to take us to space. Yeah, and the guy was like, he's like, no, that's not good enough for you, or something.
Yeah, we'll get you more than 3 tickets to space, lads. Yeah, of course, we wanted Virgin Galactic. We wanted the first tickets to go on Virgin Galactic, which still isn't running, like however many years, that's 14 years ago, no, 15, I don't know. You know, yes, we were like, come on, like, that's what we want, get us on that plane. But sadly, I don't have a ticket, and sadly, it's not running.
Was that quite fun, though, being able to play the big wigs off each other? Or just making the most of their credit card?
We were on the dole, you know, and we didn't have any money. We were on the dole. And what was amazing about it was that we were getting taken to restaurants. We were just like, yeah, okay, we'll get cocktails, we'll have lunch. This is fucking amazing. And it was fun, you know. We just sit there and spout so much shit, and everybody really enjoyed it. And we were hungry, and we wanted to get drunk, and you know, like that was kind of it. That was what was amazing about it. And just, and I was just like caught up in a whirlwind, man. It was really like a lot going on, and yeah, just going with it and having the most fun.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. The wrong thing. See, I heard you describe that first album as a concept album about your fantasy vision of the future. Is that kind of the world you're living in at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think Simon and I, like, coming up with concepts and ideas and lyrics and stuff, it was a brilliant game of one-upmanship and collaboration. And we would just like continually like look to blow each other's minds with stuff that we were into or like enjoyed or thought was really out there. Like the idea was for it to be as absolutely out there as possible, you know. We would talk about crazy shit all day long, and like make it and entertain each other, you know. I think was the thing. And it'd be like, oh yeah, do you know about this? And they'd be like, yeah, cool, mate, do you know about this? You know. And then all that stuff would just end up making it into the record. And I think that Simon, from an art school background, and by being, I don't know, I'm into some weird shit, and it was just like we just entertained each other, you know. And in the midst of that magical pop of creativity was this, weird looking vision for a future, I suppose. Yeah.
And how were you? About mid-20s when all this was going on?
I was 25. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you benefited a bit from that? I don't know. I mean, definitely. I formed a band when I was 18, and looking back, you know, I've got a lot more ideas or good ideas now, but obviously I can't do it now.
100%. I mean, I felt old when we started. because, you know, I felt like I was older than most people. I know that to be in a band, you got to be 18, and that it felt like most of the bands were a bit younger than me, other than the people in the dance music world who were like older than me. So I like sat in the middle somewhere. But yeah, I don't think I would have been like Klaxons was my 4th band. Well, definitely my 3rd. Yeah, no, sorry, my 4th, including the one that I played the drums in when I was at college. So yeah, I've been in bands since I was 14, and like, and I don't think that I would have been able to do like work on a professional level that we did. Like how, like, you know, the behind the scenes professionalism of what took place, despite the madness that you see out the front. It was a well-oiled business machine, you know. And yeah, I wouldn't have been ready to take that role on, I don't think, unless I was at the right age. I definitely like put the work in, and I was like at the point that I was ready to be in a proper band. Yeah.
So yeah, going on to that first album then, working with James Ford, who's kind of, he's like, I don't know, he's almost a bit of a mystery man, because he's worked with so many good bands, but you don't really hear too much about him. But what was it like working with him?
He's the best, man. James Ford's like the best human being alive. He's like, I saw him 5 days ago. He's like, when we talk about him with our friends, just like, he's the best. Like, he's just like the best guy. He's like so incredibly talented, so friendly, so like welcoming, so like he's so relaxed. He's like just in control. He's so sort of, I don't know. He's like your best friend, older brother, who like knows exactly what they're doing, and his patience, I think, as well, is just like incredible. Because I was talking to him the other day, because like now I'm working with the other bands, and he was like, "Yeah, you'll find out what it was like working with you, mate." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry about a load of that shit, mate." And so he's just like the kindest, like friendliest, most talented. Yeah, he's the best, you know. Yeah, I love James Ford, and we couldn't have done what we did without his production and his drumming. He drummed on the record as well.
Oh, right, cool.
He played drums on that record, and because we were like figuring things out, and yeah, you know, I love him to bits, and the patience that he put up with me, particularly fucking making that second record. The man's a saint. Like, give that man an OBE.
Yeah, because he plays with a lot of bands as well, and he played with the Arctic Monkeys on their latest live tour today, I think.
I'm not sure what he did, but he's an incredible drummer, and he's just an all-round musician. He's an all-rounder, and yeah, I'm not sure. Was he the drummer in the last Shadow Puppets?
Yeah, it says he played with them on. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was a drummer, I think. He's an incredible drummer. And I think, yeah, he's quite shy. Like, I'm always like, when we did that new Rave thing a couple of weeks back, it was like, come on, Fordo, like, come and tell the stories, mate. Come on, it'd be really funny. But he's I don't know, he's a man of history, as you say.
Yeah. So yeah, like how long did that take to record? And I don't know, how was the whole process? Was it easy laying it all down, with considering you had all the songs ready to go?
Well, no, we didn't.
Okay, right.
We didn't. We had 9 of the songs. I mean, probably we had faith in James. We went there knowing we had 9, and I think it was like definitely come out with at least 10, come out with 11. We wrote Forgotten Works and Isle of Her in the studio. I remember those 2 processes, and everything else was already written, but needed sort of fleshing out and making proper a bit, and arranging and finishing up. But yeah, it was easy. It was fun. I mean, I just remember smoking a lot of weed playing, and like it was a really nice studio in Battle. The studio was in Hastings, and studio was really nice with an incredible engineer called Jimmy Robertson. James had blown our mind by bringing in a synthesizer that you could put the guitar through. We had like an MS-20, and I'd never seen anybody put a guitar through a synth before, and we were just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And it was just fun. Like, you know, we'd already became really good friends by that point, and it was just like fun. I remember like just messing around, and yeah, just like much of it until it wasn't. It was really good fun.
Yeah. And you're talking about the singles, like on here, 6 of the songs on the album were singles. I assume some of them were before the album came out.
Yeah.
How did that work, kind of thing?
So Gravity's Rainbow, Atlantis, Zone, and Magic and Golden Scans came out before the record. Then the record came out the week after Golden Scans, and then we put out a re-recorded version of Gravity's Rainbow, and then we called it a day, which was weird because like we just won the Mercury Prize, and everyone was like, "Come on, guys, like let's round this up by putting out a hit single and say thanks very much." And we were like, "Nope, see you later. Like we're not putting out any more records." And I think that was fucking weird. And yeah, so it was already kind of planned out. You know, we had the release schedule for that album. But yeah, we put out. What was the sixth? What's the sixth one? We're forgetting a song.
It says the last one was As Above, So Below.
Oh yeah, that came out in France. Yeah, well, like a version of it came out in France, but it was never a single in the UK, and we should have put that out, I think, but we didn't. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, got to talk about that year 2007. Where was it the same year you won best NME? Sorry, best band at the NME Awards, Mercury Prize, and single of the year at the NME Awards as well.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it must have been. Everything happened in 2007. Like we played with the Brits show in 2008 in February, and that was the last thing we did for a while. So everything happened in 2007. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, can you get your head around that at the time, or is it just like a whirlwind kind of thing?
It was just magical, you know. Like we didn't everything was like turning to gold, and we were just having a brilliant time while it happened. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's weird to think back that happened. Yeah, I don't know. We were just having a really good time, and I think that everyone came along for the ride, and they gave us these accolades while we were doing it. It was just like, thank you very much, you know. Yeah, I mean, I could be crass and talk about how we used to get in arguments because like, you had the last one, I'm having this award, but you know, it was just like, I don't know. It was mind blowing, you know. It was really magical, like just a magical time and trip, and everyone came along for the ride, you know. And they just kept being like, yeah, cool. In fact, you've made the best single. Oh, really cool, amazing. Thanks very much. You know, yeah, wild.
Yeah, and yeah, winning the Mercury Prize, was that a different feeling to winning the best band at the NME Awards, or like, how do you remember it?
It was, I think the feeling was the same. The feeling is just like astonishment, you know, like just can't believe it. I mean, the Mercury particularly, like we didn't know, it happened. And the reason that you see us absolutely shit-faced when we won the award is because we performed, and then we stuck around, and Amy Winehouse performed, and Amy Winehouse's performance was just like literally one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. It was just like room-stoppingly incredible, and I was like, all right, it's fucked. Like we have not won this thing. You know, I was like, come on lads, let's go to the hotel room. Went to the hotel room, got fucking smashed, and then came back downstairs like out of our minds. And we were sitting there on the table like, yeah, whatever. It's been a good night. Like we're sitting there with our team. Like life's good. And then and the winner is, and we're like, yeah, whatever. And they said our name, and like we fucking could not believe it. You know, we did not think that it was going to happen. And what you see in the footage of us winning that award absolutely out of our minds and ecstatic about the whole thing is real, you know, because we didn't think that we'd won it. So yeah, the feeling was like unbelievable, you know. And then I went around fucking mouthing off for a couple of days.
Yeah, I saw something about you getting kicked out of the BBC or something.
I got kicked out of the BBC. Yeah, I went in there the morning after. It's embarrassing. They booked me on BBC for celebrating that we'd won the Mercury Prize, and I hadn't been to bed. And I was with a journalist from the NME who was with me, and he came with me, luckily, to do that BBC morning show. I hadn't been to bed. I was more out of my mind than I was the night before, and I was on crutches. And I had the check that we'd won in my hand, and I walked into the BBC, and I was like wielding the crutch in one hand and the check in the other, and just like telling everyone to fuck off, basically. And like they told me that I was not allowed to go on television, and they sat me down in the room, and my friend had to go do the interview because I wasn't allowed to do it. Which was the right decision on behalf of the BBC, because I'm thank God that I am not recording saying whatever it was I would have said the morning after that, because
And then I was quickly reading an NME article before I spoke to you, and it said you went from the BBC to Houses of Parliament, where you tried to get in for an hour to try and shake Gordon Brown's hand or something.
That's probably true. We've told the BBC, I'm going to tell the PM. I don't know, I'm making that up. I got no idea.
Fair enough. Sounds like a good day.
I know that we went home. I know I was talking to my friend about this the other day, and she said that we went home and got a bit of sleep because we hadn't been to sleep, and then we woke up and then we had the celebratory party for the winning of it that night, and that got even weirder. And yeah.
You mentioned the crutches. I don't know if there's much of a story there, but I read that you did break your ankle at one point in the height of your kind of rise.
I don't know if you've had him on the show. I'll tell this story, and it's embarrassing on my part, but like, I grew up in Bournemouth, indie bands in Bournemouth, and Eddie Argos from Art Brut he also grew up around there.
Right.
And Art Brut put out records on Angular, and Eddie's like been a friend of mine like since I was like 14 years old, and I'd never seen him play, and I'd never had anything to like, never been around him. I love the band, and we were together. We were at this festival in France, and it was a sunny day, and I remember being out in the crowd and watching the Art Brut show, and Eddie went to climb up on the scaffolding as part of the gig, and I think he must have had a second thought and think it was too dangerous, and he ended up coming down, didn't do it. And I watched that, and in my head I was like, I'm going to do something today. I've never done anything. Sing the songs, have a nice time, thank everybody, and good night, you know. And I was like, no, I'm going to do something today. And on the last song, the last song of the show, I used to play the keyboard and hold the mic in my hand. So I was just like, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to like run and jump off the front of the stage. And there was a 12-foot gap between the front of the stage and the front row. And there was a 12-foot drop from the stage down below, and I'm wearing these fucking green Prada slippers, and I jumped up 12 foot and I broke my leg, and I still had the mic in my hand, and I'm laying on the floor, and I'm like, guys, I think I've broken my leg. And I had to lay down in that fucking ditch in the middle of it, waiting for the ambulance to come and draw me out. And then, yeah, it's a sad story. It's a stupid story. And then we missed the gig with Kasabian the day after, and we had to go back to England, and yeah, it was a dickhead, you know.
What was that? Was it? I mean, it's obviously funny to look back on, but was it tough at the time? Like, how long were you ruled out of live shows?
The big one was that we were due to play a big show with Kasabian in France the day after, or whenever it was. It must have been the day after, and that didn't happen. And I was gutted, and everyone was gutted. We were really looking forward to that. And I don't know. I think we were out. I don't think we were out for very long, because then like we went on tour when I was in the cast, and then we just got back on with it. And we went to Japan. I don't know where else. Did we go to Australia? I don't know. But we definitely went to Japan, because then Joe Daniel, keep talking about Joe, then played bass guitar. He became the bass guitarist, and I just sat on a stool and sang.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just got on with it. You know, the show wasn't going to stop. It was just like bring someone in to play bass, and then I just wheeled around in a wheelchair and sang, and like fucking wielded the fucking stick around like an idiot.
All right. I just didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Joe was in Klaxons for like 2 months, 3 months or something. I don't know.
Right. And then, yeah, I saw that you described, at the time anyway, Glastonbury 2007 as the happiest day of your life.
So right? Did you see the thing that Joe said in Vice magazine recently about that?
Say that again, sorry.
Did you see the thing that Joe said in Vice magazine about that?
No.
He's like, yeah, I just couldn't believe it. Like, yeah, and I did 2 E's before the show, and I don't know, right? Like, we played the night before, like the night before was great. It had been chaos, and then we played the afternoon on the second stage, and it was the biggest show we'd ever done. It was going to be like, that was the pinnacle of our career, and I chose to do 2 E's before that moment happened, and then
she needed to feel a bit better about it.
Yeah, it's not good enough. Like, and yeah, and I daren't watch back the footage because I know that I was incapable of playing the songs due to how absolutely out of my mind I was. but I was just like completely like enraptured by the audience and by the. Like, I've been going to Glastonbury since 1997. 96, is that the one that happened again? Yeah, I've been going to Glastonbury since the late 90s, and I was playing it, you know, and where on the stage that I first saw things at, and it was like a massive moment. I got out of my mind, and I just remember playing really badly, singing even worse, and then like sitting down on the monitors and crying and just being like, I think this is the best day of my life, guys. I really, really love you.
Excellent. Was it one of those things where you drew a massive crowd there on one of the second stages? Yeah. Yeah,
it was major. Yeah, I don't know how many people, but it was like the biggest show we ever played. And I embarrassingly fucked it up. But yeah, it was. I just know, like, it was one of those shows where like the sun's going down and the light was golden, and like it was just like magical, you know. From what I mean, at least I think that was. I mean, I was super high. Maybe it was like grey. I don't know. Like,
I'm sure it's on YouTube.
yeah. Please don't watch it. It's awful. Yeah, but I was awful. Everyone else was
fun. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned kind of when you said you thought you wanted to you're going to put an end to it. Do you mean you thought you were just going to do one album at one point, or are you talking about the singles?
No, that was the end of that cycle. It was time to make the next one.
Right. Okay.
No. I also mistakenly once, I was at one of the last shows we did at the Isle of Wight. I was like, yeah, thanks for everything. And then the report was like, yeah, they've just broken up. And I was like, what? I just said cheers. That was a great night. I'll see you in a bit. Like, what? What? No. It was just, that was the end of we didn't have any more singles to come out.
Right. Cool.
The record was out and it was time to make another record. Yeah.
So I mean, you achieved so much in that short period. What's it like moving on? Oh, actually, I'll just ask you about the Brits first, before I ask you that. So yeah, I saw that you played with Rihanna at the Brits. I watched the video actually, Golden Scans. Like, how does something like that come together?
What? How did it happen?
Yeah.
Why did it happen? My God.
It's good to be fair.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Yeah, I've watched it back recently because, like, I work with people who don't know who I am, and then someone in the room will go, "Yeah, you played with Rihanna at the Brits once." And I'm like, "Oh, I did. Yeah, check it out. It's on YouTube." Yeah, amazing. Amazing. I could throw myself under the bus about how much of a dickhead I was by the end of that, but it was like three magical days of like. Some wizard at the record company had convinced Rihanna to come and sing with us, you know, and she liked the song, and James Ford took the backing track for Golden Scans, or was it? Yeah, Golden Scans, and stripped it out, and then we put the chords for. We worked in the studio before going there, and then we had the backing track made, and then she came down to rehearsals for 3 days. We rehearsed it, and then we did the show, and nuts. Absolutely nuts. It's a wild thing to think about that happened.
Yeah. So what's she like to work with in terms of ideas, and were you all quite vocal in terms of how you wanted it to go, kind of thing?
She was like solid professional and really good fun. Like, she came into the studio, she became my best friend for 3 days. It was absolutely mind blowing. And then I got whatever. And then she was a professional. She was really, really good. She came in, she just nailed it. And she was just super cool. We hung out and just had a really fun time. And then she became like my buddy for 3 days, and it was awesome. And yeah, I don't think she was wearing clothes by the same designer, but we talked about the fashion. The fashion was linked, and she was just super cool and like just amazing to hang out with, and fun and nice and great and easygoing and like amazing.
Yeah. Was the Brit Awards, is it live, your performance?
Thank God not.
Right.
I, again, hadn't been to bed for like a period of time.
Not again.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, imagine how my management must have felt. Like, this was the big, like, I went missing before the Brit Awards. I've been on a night out. The lads didn't know where I was. And then all of a sudden they found me in this pub in the middle of Islington, stuck me in the cab, and that took me to the Brit Awards. And I was like absolute goner because I knew that I didn't have to perform.
Okay, right.
you know, and no, I'm just like happily miming, and that smile on my face is due to the fact that I'm absolutely out of my mind, you know. And I'm embarrassed about the whole thing. And yeah, so no, it was amazing knowing that I didn't have to. If we would have had to perform, then it would have been not. I'd have been a professional, right, like I am. But no, it was the knowing that I didn't have to perform, and it was we were miming.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, cool, whatever. I'm gonna get fucked up. This is gonna be great.
I mean, that's the ideal situation, really.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, what, we don't have to play, and Rihanna's gonna be there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I was going to ask you if you're nervous. Obviously not because of that.
No.
But were there any big shows you were nervous for, or were you like kind of, I don't know, doing your own thing?
We didn't support very many people. I'm going to big ourselves up for a minute. We only ever supported Blur, Bjork, and Daft Punk. And the Bjork show that we did at Madison Square Garden, I was pretty terrified that day. Yeah, 100%. And I remember actually the NME big show that we did at the O2, I was pretty terrified that day as well. You know, the big shows that we did. But no, I just like a couple of drinks, go on, smash it, punk, give a shit. You know, it's
Yeah.
That was the attitude. The attitude was just like, no, whatever. And like, it was just, it was so energetic. You know, I don't think there wasn't space for nerves because it was like chaos and energy. You know.
Yeah, and I get, like you say, it's all part of it. You know, like with bands like, well, a lot of those bands, but bands like the Libertines, it's all part of it if things went wrong or it's just a bit chaotic.
Yeah, exactly. And we were lucky because, as I say, we couldn't play at the beginning at all. Like A, we couldn't play, B, we wouldn't play, and it was a mess. And then our management brought in a new tour manager and kicked our asses and was like, look, just get in there and sort yourselves out. And we became a really good band, you know, and we definitely weren't to start with. We didn't care, but we through hard work and doing it a lot and good management, we kicked our ass. We became a really good band, you know.
Obviously, all that success you had in a short space of time. And it's a question that gets asked of, you know, all different people, whether it be footballers or musicians. Like, how do you cope with kind of achieving all your dreams? Like, what point? What's it like going from that point, kind of thing? Is it hard, or how do you assess it?
It's such a mad question. I don't know, like, how seriously to answer that. I think, like, while it's happening, I don't think it's not that I didn't appreciate it, because like I fully appreciate it. Like I can't believe the things I've done in my life. I really can't. Like, just like amazing. You know, I wanted to be in a band I was in a band when I was 14. I wanted to be in a successful band forever, and I can't believe the experiences that I've had. You know, I can't believe the things that I've done. Like, I'm just like absolutely bowled over. And when you're going through them, there's just a fun element to it. Like, stop me seriously stopping and thinking about what was going on. Like, while it's happening, there was no thought about what was happening while it was happening. But I think that when it stops happening, that's when you realize, like, oh God, like what did I just do? Like, what was yesterday all about? You know, like what it's like, while things are going on and there's more to look forward to, and you're doing something crazy, you do, like, your dreams are coming true, and then tomorrow you can see your dreams of like something else wild's going to happen. And I don't know, like, there's no time for reflection in all of that. And I think that it doesn't happen until you're not in that whirlwind anymore, that then you can be like, oh, okay, cool, well, that was absolutely mind-blowing, like what just happened, you know. Yeah. And I think our angle, my angle, was just to like have a wild time, you know. And yeah, I didn't stop and think about it. I was just like, this is amazing, like, thanks very much, cheers. Like, you know.
Yeah. I suppose that's where maybe being a bit older comes in handy as well. Yeah, you've had a bit more life experience, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't behave like I was any older for a long period of time. I behaved like a spoiled idiot, but like, yeah, but behind the bad behavior and the wildness, I was like an adult, you know. And yeah, like taking things very serious. As much like the fun was like the facade, and then like the seriousness was like what happened behind closed doors or in my head, you know.
And yeah, I went through NME.com, basically trying to find stories, and just a few different ones. Like, is it true you worked with Natalie Imbruglia at one point?
That's amazing. How the hell did you know that? Yeah, I'm gutted. Like, I still want to work with Natalie Imbruglia. I'm still trying to get that cut. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Natalie Imbruglia. She came to our show. We became good friends, and I don't think the song, we never got a song. It didn't happen. And then, like, when I become a songwriter since then, I'm like, I want to get in that Natalie Imbruglia room. You know, I'm a big fan. But yeah,
Torn was a banger.
Torn's an absolute banger. Yeah, I'm big fan of Natalie Imbruglia. Just get me in that room, you know. I'm putting myself on the table. I want to produce the next Natalie Imbruglia album, please.
Well, I'm sure she listens. So
yeah.
And then there's this band called the Chavs that you're in with Carl Barat and Tim Burgess. What?
Yeah.
You did a show together? Is it just the one show?
Yeah, I was in the Chavs just for one show, I think. Yeah, we did one show in London. Yeah, I think it was just the one show. And Duffy from Primal Scream, and Dids, and Anthony Rosamundo, and Steph from Klaxons, and yeah. And with Tim Burgess, man, like, Tim Burgess is my hero when I was 14 years old, you know, and now I'm in a band with him, like, that kind of thing, you know, like, what is going on? Tim Burgess, also the absolute hero of the last year, you know, absolutely brilliant man. And yeah, I grew up. Tim Burgess was a rock star god when I grew up. And then I'm in this band with him and he's singing my songs. I'm like, cool.
Yeah, what's happened? Were you singing each other's songs? Was that kind of what you're doing?
What did we do? Like, I think... Or
was it a bit of covers as well?
I think we did did we do a Dirty Pretty Thing song?
Yeah, I think I read that, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a Dirty Pretty Thing song. I think we did a cover of Golden Scans. I don't know what else we did. I was really drunk.
Looked like a laugh anyway.
It was really good fun. Yeah, I don't know. We should do like Chad's Reformation, you know.
And then were you thinking about forming a band, or did you form a band with Adam Green and Harmar Superstar at one point?
Where are you getting this amazing?
Literally. I feel like I want to pretend I'm really good at research, but it's all on NME.com.
That's so good. No, thank you, mate. I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, that happened in my life. Harmar, I remember I was sitting in a car with Harmar in LA. We hadn't been to bed. We were both wearing caftans and both like wild out of it. And then it was like, yeah, cool, we're going to start this band. I think this is where I'm being a fool. I can't remember the name of the other person that was in it, and I really wish you'd edit this bit out until I remember.
Adam Green?
No, it's not Adam Green.
Right.
I absolutely love him. I'm a massive fan of his, and I can't remember his name, and I'm being an idiot. And when I remember, it'll just pop in when I'm not thinking about it. But he was in it as well, and we were talking about this. It was called Angel Tears or something. Like, I can't remember. Yeah. And we were going to do something, and I was like, yes, this is dream come true stuff. But I don't think we made a second worth of music. I think did Harmar also perform with Mark Ronson that year? I think that was the connection. I can't remember. I don't know. But Harmar's like, he's an amazing human being, Harmar. Also sober and also a brilliant man.
All right.
I don't mean I'm a brilliant man. I mean he's a brilliant man.
Fellow great person.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Lily Allen. Am I right in thinking you guys are quite good mates with her? Did you work with her on a professional level as well? Yeah.
Yeah, bits. Like, I've been in the studio with her a couple of times, but nothing's ever come through like proper work on the singles. We're mates, basically. No, I don't think like I've got a cut, as you call them, with Lily. No, but again, I talk to her about making music all the time. Lily, let me produce your album. I really want to do it. Please. We've talked about it for a really long time. We're really good friends. Let me produce your album.
Yeah. Then there's a story about you accepting the Arctic Monkeys award. Something about you keeping the award or something.
Oh my god, mate! Like, that is, of all the embarrassing stories about myself, that is probably the peak of it. There's footage that you can see on NME.com of me holding the two awards that I picked up. Basically, I think what happened is that the presenter knew that the Arctic Monkeys weren't in the room, but also knew that we were all mates. And for a laugh, the presenter said, "And the winner is," and read out our name. And I was like, absolutely, yeah, there's a running theme here. I was actually out of my mind. And she'd said that we'd won the award. And I just went up there and was like, "Thanks very much. We've won the award. Love you, LA. Peace out," whatever. And then afterwards, I get thrown in front of a camera and they were like, "How does it feel to be holding the Arctic Monkeys award?" And I was like, "Well, if you think it's the Arctic Monkeys award and you think they're the best band, well, fucking fair enough to you, mate. But we haven't won that." And then afterwards, someone's like, no, that's their award, mate. You weren't supposed to win it. It was a joke." Oh, great. Yeah, cool. I'll see you later. And I still got it. And then I haven't still got it. I got home and realized that I'd got it. And then we mailed it to them and they got it back. And yeah, I'm ashamed of the whole thing, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't realize it was a joke and I was fucking really drunk.
Well, it sounds like you got away with that one because the way the NME, they didn't throw you under the bus by saying you thought it was your award. They just said you took it for a laugh. So
okay, that's cool. Well, yeah, I mean both those things. But don't watch the video where the guy's like, "How does it feel to be holding the Arctic Monkeys award?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck off, mate. Like, this is our award." Oh God, yeah. So I apologise, but they did get that award back. The other half, yeah.
And then there's one about supporting music at Wembley. I read one story where it says you drunkenly turned it down, but you really wanted to do it, and then another one which said you didn't want to support at Wembley, you wanted to like play a bigger show there if possible. That's why you turned it down.
Can you imagine the arrogance, like the stupidity and the arrogance of like a person who's like, "Nah, I'm all right, mate. What, play with music at Wembley? Nah, I'm good." Right? What was I doing? What was I thinking? What? Why did that happen? I regret that. It's amazing, that story, because I forget that happened. The arrogance and stupidity of not playing. I'm gutted we never played Wembley. I'm gutted we didn't play with Muse.
One thing I didn't ask about that early period was the charts, basically. I asked people about the charts and stuff. Like, was it a big deal for you guys when your album went in at number 2? Or was it just all part of the madness, really?
No, I think that's the thing that is a really big deal for me personally. Is like just personally, like having the charts makes you a part of music history, you know. And like, yeah, I mean, we had 4, I think, like 5. Oh God, this whatever it means, what it means to me. But yeah, like chart success, I think, is the ultimate goal. You know, being a fan of pop music, growing up loving pop music, all the records I owned were in the charts, and just watching the charts and being obsessed with charts, to have singles in the top 10 and singles in the top 40 and a number 2 album. It was number 1 album for 6 days and then number 2 on the 7th. You know, that's the thing. Look, that's the legacy. You know? That's where the pride comes in, I think.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And was Top of the Pops still again at that point? Did you ever do that?
No, I wish, man. No. No, I wish. I love Top of the Pops. Top of the Pops was like, that was youth. Was it Thursdays it used to be on? I remember it getting moved to Friday. It used to be on Thursdays when I was a kid, and just like my memories of all the bands that I loved, like on Top of the Pops, you know, and then the ITV chart on a Saturday, and then the Word on a Friday, and then like there was a load of other TV shows around it. But yeah, Top of the Pops was the big one. And no, I think it had just stopped. I mean, we did loads of TV, but that had stopped, I think, at that point.
Did you ever do like Letterman or anything like that?
This is where my brilliant memory comes in. What name? We did do an American TV show. Yeah, we didn't do Letterman. I've embarrassed myself. Forgetting people's names is really bad. But no, we did American TV. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Was that kind of? Yeah, what was that like? Did you kind of see the benefit of playing America? Did you kind of build a bit of an audience there?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't like wildly successful in America, but we toured it 3 times, and it was the best of times. And touring America is like a dream come true for an English kid. You know, grew up wanting to be in a band. It's like being in the tour buses, and the tour buses are big, and the journeys are long, and the shows were great, and get to see America. You know, I look back on that really fondly. Like it's all different places we went to, and yeah, no, it's amazing. We weren't mega. We weren't wildly successful in America, but we did good shows. I think we played to like 2,000 or something. It was like our biggest type show, and we got to a decent level and loved every minute of it. You know, play Coachella. Yeah, and just love being there. You know, it's that the American tours were, yeah, good times.
Yeah. And did they kind of buy into the new rave thing as well?
Not really, no.
Right, fair play.
They were just like, what's this shit? They definitely were not interested in like British culture, no, but they just liked us for our songs. I think they were cool about the band, but they were not interested. There was like 1 or 2 people in America with a glow stick. There was not that hadn't. I don't think that the American press bought into the whole new rave thing, because I think rave culture was the thing in America even at that point in time. Like EDM hadn't happened in America at that point in time, and that they, of course, they've got house music, etc. But rave culture didn't exist in America, and yeah, I don't think they were interested in that aspect of it at all. They just like thought they were a cool band.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, yeah, just the build up to the second album. Like I read that Tony Visconti was going to produce it at one point. Is that true?
Man. Yeah, speaking of regrets, yeah, I can't believe that. I was talking to my brother about that the other day. Yeah, no, we met Tony, very lovely man, like, you know, made some of my favorite records, and can't believe it. We went out with him a couple of times, and he was going to do it, but it was I think if I'm remembering this rightly, it was just that we didn't have the songs. We hadn't written the songs, and you know, we met Tony. He was willing to do it, and we just weren't ready to do it. We didn't have anything to take to him, you know, and I think that's how it went. It wasn't that he'd heard our demos and because he wanted to do it, and I think we messed it up by not having songs, you know. But yeah, what a legend. I wish that would have happened, you know. God, I'd work with Tony Visconti in a minute.
Yeah. And yeah, I read I think it was a quote from James saying the second album kind of felt forced, and that you were writing things separately to try and get stuff together. Because there was a 3-year gap between the albums. Like how was that period in terms of songwriting?
In terms of songwriting, nothing. It was, we didn't do too much. I mean, the first, I think it's not a news story that we went to Italy twice, to a really nice studio in Italy. I think Muse had recorded there, with James Ford. And we were like writing in the studio. We weren't like a band that would write songs while we were on the road. You know, it just didn't happen. We were just having fun, do shows and have fun. And we didn't take any time we didn't have a rehearsal space anymore. We didn't have a space, we didn't have our own space. And we didn't think about writing songs at all. And the tour just kept going. You know, that first record just kept going and kept going, and it wasn't on our minds that we had to follow it up. And then we went out to Italy, didn't write any songs, or we jammed, and those jams exist, but there were no songs in there. And then we did another trip out there. It was just sketches of songs, but no songs. And then we went to one trip to France, and we first started, James started writing songs. He was on the ball. He was the first one back on the ball, and he started presenting songs, and there was some good stuff in there. And he picked up the ball enough to start making a record. And then we went out to France with James Ford for the third time, attempting the studio to make a record, came back. I don't know whether like that one the songs weren't completed. And then we went back to France for a second time, fourth studio attempt. And then we came out of there with 11 songs. And that was like one of the most magical times of my life. AKA absolutely out of my mind. And yeah, we wrote some really cool songs at that point in time. So it took us a long time it took me a long time. I wasn't engaged at all with writing songs for a long period of time, and I woke up one day and was like, oh shit, yeah, I remember. I need to go fucking write a tune, you know. And I'm embarrassed how long that took me to figure that out, because I just like I didn't. And then when I woke up one day, I was like, oh yeah, cool, I remember. And I just like, go and do this. Picked it back up again and we started writing songs again, and it started working. And you know, we made that record that half of it is on the internet and the other half of it isn't out. And yeah, and that's it. And then we met Ross Robinson after that, and then we made a record with Ross Robinson, which became the second album.
Okay.
So yeah, it took us a long time because we were just touring endlessly and not thinking about it. And I was just like, I just like didn't care. I was so out of my mind, I didn't care. And like, yeah, and that's it. And then just woke up one day and was like, sort this out, mate, and started writing songs again. And now I write a song every single day.
All right.
now I'm like, must write songs. Yeah, exactly. It was a lesson in like, oh yeah, I remember who I am. Like, I remember what I do, you know. And yeah, for whatever reason, it's interesting that it was done separately. We didn't have a space anymore, and everyone got laptops. Like, we didn't have laptops. No, we didn't have a home studio. Like, we didn't have the space to rehearse anymore, which we did. We wrote the first songs in, and then everyone bought a laptop, and then it was like, oh, cool! Like, let's make music now. We can make music on our laptops at home, and that started happening. And that's when we started bringing in sketches that we'd all individually been working on at home, which previously we hadn't done. We just like got into the studio and written songs together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there an initial version of the album? It said I read that it was turned down by the label because it was too experimental, or is that nonsense?
Brilliant bit of legacy, that. But I love that. No, it was too experimental. Nah, you want to experiment? Nah, you like experimental music, right? This stuff was like too experimental. but it's brilliant. I can't remember if it was me that said that or someone else, but I love that. It's brilliant. And in truth, the record that we made in Italy, that I think, I don't know, what's the name of it? I've got them saved on my computer somewhere. That music was unquestionably too experimental and like not, like when I say we didn't write songs, like, sure, I've got a synth right here, sure, like we plugged in a synth and it made a noise, and then we were like, yeah, well, cool. There was no like structure, there was no verse, there was no singing, you know. So that record in Italy was absolutely too experimental. But then the record that didn't come out, which half of it is on the internet, it is called Landmarks of Lunacy, which perfectly sums up the experience that we had making it. And I cherish that music that's out there, but it's absolutely amazing. And I think that the five best songs from that period are available online, and I cherish those songs. They're incredible. But it was like I was really into like music from Canterbury at the time, like British music, psychedelia from the late 60s, and like the Soft Machine and Kevin Ayers, and the Caravan. I'm a massive fan of this band Caravan, and it was like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, we've just been and sung with Rihanna and been on world tour. Now we're going to go home and become this whimsical English band, like making music from the 60s. And then nobody questioned anything we did. Everyone was just like, yeah, cool. And then when they heard it, they were like, yo, what's this weird music? You just had 4 top 40 singles. Like, what's this? And I'm like, oh yeah, fair point, well made. I'll go and write some songs that feel like they could be in the charts, you know. Like just drugs.
Yeah. But I guess with your type of music or the music you make, and there was quite a lot of freedom to it, really. You could kind of take it anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, lyrically, if we go through the lyrics that Simon and I wrote, it's like, what the fucking hell? We talk about going anywhere, like we've been everywhere, like in the universe, you know. And like, yeah, musically, we had that freedom. There was no A&R guidance. Nobody said to you, not until we did 4 expensive studio trips and we'd spent a lot of money did anybody say, guys, the money's racking up, like you might want to think about like making some tunes that come out like in the charts, guys. You might want to think about your old album that was successful. Not until that point did anybody say a word. Like we could do whatever we wanted. Basically, that was do drugs and not write songs.
What's it like? Yeah, in terms of writing songs, Intoxicated, then what's your take on that? Did you have any success in that process?
No, I don't write. No, absolutely none. I don't write songs. I can't write songs under the influence of anything. Hence, there being no songs written. It's like, yeah, no, I can't. Like, I haven't. But actually, there's one. Well, apart from that first 5, yeah, what am I talking about? Those first 5 days are absolutely out of my mind. But after that, no, like songwriting is like a sober process. You know, songwriting is like it's part magic and part math, you know, and I've got to be in the right headspace to allow that in, you know. And no, there's nothing after those first 5 days. Maybe we should have just gone back to it and got absolutely smashed and rolled on the floor and actually wrote songs. Maybe that's what I should have done. Maybe I'll do that now. It's like, I'm not going to do that now, but like, yeah, no, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. I think songwriting is a sober process, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that, like you mentioned, Ross Robinson, who produced that second album, was he more? I mean, I saw he produced Slipknot. So did he have more of a heavier background?
Yeah, he was. I mean, talk about. Are you still there? Yeah, sorry, I'm going to plug the Zoom in. Yeah, we went from new rave to new metal. He was the guy that did all the new metal records. But like the one for me that I was like, this is definitely the guy that I wanted to work with, was that he made Relationship of Command by At the Drive-In, and I love that record. Like we were dancing to. I used to dance to One Arm Scissor in a nightclub on my own. Like I absolutely love that record. And then he made that, and I met him, and he was like a guru type figure, very spiritual man, and comes from an angle, takes music production as a kind of from a spiritual angle rather than a musical angle, and that felt like the right fit to me. Got a combination of him being like just the most amazing human being I've met, much needed at that point in time. Just like this guru, big like father figure role, like that we needed, that guidance, you know, and allowing us to like be ourselves and to be the best version of ourselves. And yeah, I was sold. So we went to LA and lived with him and made a record in his house in LA. Yeah, just he's an incredible man.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's he say is kind of a mentor in terms of music, or just in terms of
not music?
He's like, no,
none of it. Like none of that. His whole thing is like, used to say, why are you here? We'd be like, I don't know, Ross. I don't know. I've been thought about that for a long time, mate. I can't figure it out. Why are you here? I'm like, I don't know, Ross. Like, I'm playing my guitar. Like, I don't know. They'd be like, you're here to give. I'm like, what? Yeah, you're here to give. I'm like, yeah, you're right, Ross. Like, yeah, I am. And then he just like get you to rip, as he put it. And he just like the mantra was, you're here to give. You're here to give. Now rip. Let's go. And it's like, all right. And the songs we'd like sketched out in demo form, and they were like, you know, I think it goes back to like what James had said about us not making songs together in the room that we did in the first place. Well, because it then became sketching demos at home, and then we worked on it slightly in a studio in East London and like got them into shape. But then the musicianship of them like weren't brilliant. And then when we met Ross turned us into a great band, I think, and in regards to becoming good performers. I mean, like musicians. Like I've been a musician forever, and like I wasn't like a solid musician until working on Ross Robinson, and he like turned us into like good musicians, I think. Which yeah.
When that comes out and it makes the top 10, is that like a big deal? Is that a relief kind of thing, or are you not too worried at that point?
When it was on Radio 1, I was over the moon. Like I'm completely obsessed with Radio 1, and yeah, as soon as while Radio 1 were playing our singles, I was like, yeah, cool, we've done this. We've achieved what I remember we were set out to achieve again. And we're doing a thing that I care about and means the most to me, you know. Yeah, it was I don't know if it's a relief, but I was excited to be back on the radio, to be back on Radio 1, for the record to be coming out, for it to be listened to, and for it to go down well. You know, the reviews of that record are really good, and I'm proud of it. And yeah, I just remember at the time, yeah, just being happy that we were back on the radio, and it's going well again. Yeah.
I was listening to Echoes today. It's like weirdly, it's one of those songs that somewhat very nostalgic about it, and it takes you right back to that time. I think very good song.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I love that song. I think it's one of our better songs. Yeah, it's nostalgic for that time, and it's got, I don't know, for me, it's got this like weird timelessness about it too. I love that song. I love that song. Thank you. It's weird, like when I think about the band, I often think about our first record, but Echoes from the second record, I think, like stands up and it's got that magic in it. I think that it's there in some of the earlier stuff.
Yeah, cool. And then I guess there's a bit of a 4-year gap to your next album. Like, were you playing a lot of live gigs? Were you playing a lot of live gigs in that time space?
You know what's mad? It's like there was longer between the second record and the third record than there was between the first and the second one. But that seemed to like go like no time at all. We were constantly playing shows. We were constantly touring. There wasn't. So weird. I don't know what went on that period of time. We definitely got back more into making music on our laptops again. Like that become another thing. Like EDM was happening at that point in time. And like electronic music was like really taken off in this country, and Radio 1 all of a sudden wasn't playing indie bands as much as they were before. They were like playing like electronic pop records, and I guess we felt I saw that shift, but we were never. We didn't like. I didn't want to like jump on the EDM bandwagon. I think we could have become an EDM band. We could have like stopped being a band and become a like electronic group, performance-wise. But we were still. We just made this record where Ross had turned us into incredible musicians, and simultaneously the thing that we could have stepped into, which was electronic music that we were set up to walk into, we didn't want to do. I think for all the things that are things. There were things that we could have done differently, and things might have been very different, but we were always like, no, I don't want to do the obvious thing that it makes sense for us to be doing. Well, I'd rather go off over here and do this thing that's pretty weird, and
so 2014, third album comes out, and that's the year of your last gig. Did it all kind of come together? Did you know that was the plan, that you'd finish that year?
No, I didn't. I thought we were going to make another record. It made sense to everybody else to call it a day with the band. Like that was it. I think that like we I don't know. We worked really hard. I think that like we worked really hard, and I think that like at that point in time, I think people wanted to do other stuff. I think like I think James very often made his own record. Simon didn't want to make records anymore. I was like, okay, cool.
Obviously got to ask you about working with James Murphy and the Chemical Brothers. Did they produce that third album? And I mean, what was that like? Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's again, when I look back and think like dream come true stuff. As I said, I've been into the Chemical Brothers, going and watching them on my own in clubs in London since being 18. Just a massive fan. They're one of my favourite groups of all time. And just to be able to see behind the Wizard's curtain and go into Tom Chemical's studio, and see all his gear and to work with him. And he taught me so much as a electronic music producer, and it was a masterclass. It was like learning from the masters. And similarly with James Murphy, he came in with a spirit and the most amazing musical equipment and showed us around it, and we were just like kids in a sweet shop. We wanted to know about electronic music. We wanted to know about synthesizers. We wanted to like know how to make this amazing electronic music that we loved, but I didn't make. Like I'm a keys player, a guitar player, and a bass player. Like I don't play synthesizers, and I'm just like, wow, what is all this? This is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for showing it to me. Like, wow, what does this do? What does this do? So it was just like got to hang out with the masters, and it was really cool to finally like make an electronic music record with people that I respect and loved. And I'm so proud of that third record. I think that third record's absolutely amazing. I haven't listened to it for a long time, but when I went back to it, I was like, yeah, this record stands up. And in a way, it should have been the second record, but like, yeah, it was awesome. We got to work with heroes again,
Yeah. And we had Luke Jenner from The Rapture on, who said James Murphy is quite relentless in terms of driving people, but maybe chilled out by that point. I don't know.
It was relentless in terms of like going to find the nicest bottle of wine and the nicest. It's pretty chill. No, he was like I just remember like he came in with a synth, and his spirit is just huge, you know, like his spirit is just massive. He's so much fun and like amazing guy, and it was just like having a brilliant time running the synthesizers and running a desk and being a producer and loving it. It's what I remember from working with him. And yeah, and we took some of those parts, and I think it was split production between James and Tom on that, so I might have this completely wrong, but yeah, I just remember James, he wasn't tough at all. He was just like having a laugh. It was great.
So that last gig then, did you know it was going to be your last gig, that one at Shepherd's Bush?
Yeah, we did. Right. Yeah, we did. Yeah, that last tour, we knew. I think we did. I can't remember. I don't know whether I knew personally or whether we had announced it. I don't know, like whether we sold the last tour on the fact that we were breaking up at the end of it. I don't remember, and I don't think that's what we would have done. But yeah, I did know, being on that tour, that it was the last show. Yeah, it was like, there's a picture of me and I'm crying on stage, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, is that kind of a good way to do it, where you can kind of take it all in for that last show, and kind of, yeah, I don't know, where you can kind of, because I guess other bands fade out, other bands fade away, whereas you could end on that big high, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, the show was cool. It was at Shepherd's Bush Empire, which we done bigger show, so it wasn't like our biggest show, but the show was great. And our friends were there. The audience was amazing. We were playing the new record that we loved. It was awesome. It was the London show for the record that we just made and loved. And but it was just like so emotional that like it wasn't like enjoyable. It's really weird to like be given energy of like good times whilst at the same time thinking good times, but last time I was just confused and upset, to be honest with you, and like I just didn't know what was going on, and I'm singing the songs and having a nice time, and then there's like pictures of it afterwards and I'm stood there like and yeah, I don't know, it's a good way to do it. I think there's so many ways to string a cat and finish a band, you know. I don't know. Yeah, I always think, like, would I recommend that someone did it that way? I don't know, but yeah, it was weird, I think. Yeah.
Now, a few bands have done it. I think Maccabees did it, didn't they? I remember
they did it great. They had a great one, I think. Well, it looked great from the outside, you know, like it looked like it was a good way to go. They announced it and it looked really cool. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing a reunion gig?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it's happening. Sorry.
Fair play.
I don't think so. I don't know. Right. I don't think anybody wants that 2007 energy right now.
I've been stuck in there for about a year with this podcast, but
oh no, no. I look like fondly, but I mean, like, I know
what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, anybody. I basically think that the band are like doing other things with their lives, and we're all doing different stuff, and everyone's happy. And it's like, I don't think we're all happy, and I don't think anyone's like, yeah, at this point of happiness, maybe we should go back to that point where we were unhappy, desperately trying to make music and desperately trying to be successful. Yeah, cool, sounds good. I don't think that's what anybody wants to do, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And was there at one point, was there a bit of a mix between the Gorillaz and the Klaxons with a band called Youth of the Apocalypse? Yeah,
that was like 2 years ago, and it was cool. And again, like some dreams come true. And amazing guys in that band, really cool guys, amazing experience, made some really cool records. Love those guys, really cool. Personally, I dipped out to become a songwriter, and and that was that. And I've been doing that for the last 2 years, which it's been fucking awesome.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we had Preston on from the Ordinary Boys, who's songwriter, and he said it's kind of like it's like you can write a good tune and not have to deal with any of the bullshit kind of thing.
That is exactly it. It's so great. Like, for me, like, the amazing thing about it is, like, I don't have to think about myself. Like to think about somebody else and to take on, like, an artist comes to, like, if you've not met the artist before, or like, I've been working with the artists for a long time, if you know them, but I'm there to serve the artists. I'm there to help them, and I'm there to, like, help them make a version of themselves, and to be able to do that and to be in service of another musician and to help them write songs is infinitely more rewarding than sitting there at home thinking, oh my God, I need to be successful and I don't know how to do it and I'm having a nightmare and please can somebody come and sort me out. It's infinitely more rewarding to like I love writing songs. I'll write songs all day, and like to help somebody, just to like be in service is so much better than to be giving a shit about myself as an artist and ego and all that crap, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I asked Preston how it worked, and he said basically you're putting songs out there and you're just waiting for someone to pick them up. Is that what happens really? Or do you get kind of commissioned to write songs?
Yeah, I've not really had much success with that. I think that angle is, I found it to be less likely to have a song that you have written come out if you are just writing them and looking for and you don't know which artist you expect to be singing that song. I mean, it's called pitching, and like you can pitch songs all the time, and I write songs to pitch. Like I've got some cool songs that I pitch, but the way that like I have found that it's like is rewarding, and you're having a better experience in the creation of the music, plus like the whole experience of working with the artist is to be in the room with the artist at the time you're making it. And then like you work, I work with different artists, and I sit in there as like the songwriter, producer, overseer, mentor type guy. And I help people realize things. You sit there and you discuss with people what they're looking to achieve, where they're coming from, where they're at in their lives at that point in time. It's like therapy for like an hour, and then like you get to know somebody, and then you sit down and you write a song with them, and that experience is amazing. And I've been doing that for 2 years, and I love it. And I just came from doing it sort of half an hour before I spoke to you, you know, and I've really fallen in love with that, you know, and just like it's amazing. It's amazing to. And not all of them work, you know. I've written, I don't know how many songs I wrote last year, definitely in the hundreds something, and not all of them come out. But like, it's real experience in the craft and the love of the craft and the songs and learning about the craft, and then taking that knowledge and then sharing it with other artists. And you're learning something every day and making something cool. And occasionally you get a really good one, and then that comes out, and you get to have the joy of watching somebody else have that experience, you know.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And you've had any like chart success in terms of songwriting in that regard?
No, I haven't. No, but fingers crossed. I think it's looking like, you know, I work with a kid called Daniel Briskin. He's 19. We're both signed to Virgin /PMR. It's like the home of Disclosure and Jessie Ware and stuff. And we've been developing Daniel. He's an incredible artist. He's like incredibly talented man, and I love him to bits. He's like my brother. And we made one record together, which was like his introduction to the world. And it came out, you know, that came out in the midst of the pandemic. It was due to come out last year. It came out in the midst of the pandemic, and is what it is. And it's an incredible body of work. It's called Forever Is a Feeling, and I love it so much. I really recommend having a listen to it. And we've made a second record, which we just finished of his last week, and it's fucking banging. And like, fingers crossed that feels like it could be the thing that does it. And, you know, we'll see what happens for Daniel, you know, but I think that he's got what it takes, and fingers crossed we've got some really good songs, and see what happens.
Yes. Yeah, one thing we ask guests is like how they see it for new bands or new artists now. Do you think it's harder to get started, or like how would you anticipate it'd be different for you guys if you were starting out today?
That's amazing. I mean, I don't know. I think that, you know, it felt like there was like loads of bands back in like the day. I feel that it feels like there's maybe even more now. Like, it's so weird. Like, there's so many artists, and I think that there's so much music being uploaded to Spotify, and there's so many. I don't know. It feels like it's a healthy place right now. Anyway, it feels like there's like loads of bands and loads of music. The only thing for me is like, you know, talk about how I was luckily, like, I had friends who worked in press, and that's why it worked for Klaxons at the beginning. We didn't live in a social media world. Klaxons never did social media. Like, the last couple of things that we did, we had to post on Instagram. The last record, we had to do a little bit of it. We were so bad at it. Like, we just didn't understand it. Like traditional media, I'll go on TV, I'll talk on the radio, you know, like I'll do whatever, but having to sell myself like on the internet, nah. And I think that's the job of the artist these days. And I think it's completely fucking different to how I know how to do things, you know. And I'm not the person to come to advise on what. I mean, I can definitely mentor an artist and talk them through the experiences, and I'm here to be the mentor for artists. But I think it's different. I think with social media and the internet, it's a different world. Even though Klaxons came about, our success was in part due to MySpace and the internet for sure. I think it's a different world because we had traditional media that we used, and I don't think that that's the case for young artists now. And there are lots of them, and I think they're having a different experience that I had 15 years ago.
Yeah. And with things like Spotify, like there's a lot of talk, you know, about the pay through being pretty bad. Like, how do you see that? Do you think that needs changing, or do you think that's just how it is now?
No, I think it's amazing. Did you see the letter that was written in the last couple of days by Paul McCartney and David Orban and hundreds of gigantic British musicians?
I don't think I did, no.
No, there's been a letter written to it must have been written to government in the last couple of days, and it's time to seriously take a look at it. You know, I think it's widely known that the artist, the writer, it's the payment of that is not in their favour, and the favour is the payment to the record company. And I think the letter described, I think what they're looking to do, I might have this drastically wrong, but it was like, if we change in the way, because an artist gets paid, say your music is on the radio, you're paid a percentage for being played on the radio, because of the way the distribution of the money works. And they want to change so that streaming services work in the same way as it does on radio, but it's not currently that model. And if they change it to the same model, then it'd work in favour of the artist, and I think that's what they're campaigning for. So, yeah, I mean, you know, for the sake of the artist, no, absolutely, it's widely known that the artist is not making as much money as they should do from their music, and the money that was in music for the artist, particularly like in music history, it wasn't the case as much, I don't think, like in going through the noughties as well. And now I think it's probably even less, you know, and it's time to get it figured out, I think. And I really hope that this latest campaign is something that makes that happen.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was thinking recently, I wonder if a subscription service like Patreon would work for me. Obviously not Patreon, but something similar. But I guess maybe it's too late for something like that now, where each band would have their own, you know, subscription channel kind of thing. But
yeah,
maybe it's too late for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that maybe if you can monetize your fan base from your own output would be absolutely amazing. But it's the bigger picture, I think. It's the fact that I'm a fan of streaming, you know, like streaming is like, it's been incredible. You know, I collected records up until streaming, and now I'm walking around with everything in my pocket, plus everything I ever wanted, you know, and I'm over the moon. I'm a music fan. But as an artist, it's a shit show, you know, and like I really hope it gets figured out so that the record companies have got it figured out. They're getting paid, you know, they figured out how to get paid, and it's like, come on, let's like get the artist paid in this situation as well.
Yeah, I read a quote from Paul Weller who said, you know, it's amazing for the consumer, but it's just not the right balance, kind of thing.
Yeah, as a consumer, I'm over the moon, and I think the record companies are over the moon. They've monetized streaming. And it's like, cool, let's divvy that up.
Just going back briefly to the end of Klaxons then. And you talked about, you know, your journey to becoming sober. Like, what was it like leaving the band? Did you find it difficult, or was it not that kind of
my alcoholism and drug taking went absolutely through the fucking roof. Like, that was the point that it was like, okay, well, I've got no band, still making money. I'm still going out to like social stuff, and I'm kind of like upset, and I don't really quite know what I'm doing with my life at this point in time. I know, more drugs and alcohol, and you know, and that's when things got stupid, and I was like a mixture of like confused and drunk and upset. And that time, I think those 2 or 3 years were kind of weird and really weird, and I drank my way through it, and I'm really incredibly grateful to have sort of worked my way through that and come out sober on the other side of it.
Yeah, mate.
it's a mandol. It's such a weird thing. I rarely dip into that emotion, you know. But yeah, I think I was lost and confused and drunk, you know. And I think I'm still like, I think of myself as like a workaholic, you know. Like I still, as well, other addictions, like work is an addiction of mine as well. And luckily, like going to work and writing songs and still making music and still doing it is the thing that's like kept me through all of it. But then it's like, okay, I need to knock the other stuff on the head and just focus on the fact that I'm a songwriter. And life's been good ever since. It was for like a couple of years. It was for like a year or so before, but like that's when the combination of like knocking my addictions on the head and working hard, life's become better, so much better and so much more fun and like easier.
And did you say, when we had Patrick Warden on from Baby Shambles, who said, you know, kind of had almost like a light bulb moment where he just kind of knew it was, well, he said it was almost do or die for him at that point. But did you kind of have a similar kind of, I don't know, light bulb moment, I don't know if that's the right term, but did you have a moment where you realized that you needed to change?
I think that, I don't know if it's the same for all addicts or all alcoholics, but like, you know, the rock bottom is very much something that comes with it. And interestingly, like the rock bottom, sometimes like I'd be having rock bottoms and I'd be like, oh yeah, life can't get any weirder, and then bam, something else happens, and like, shit, I thought it was rock bottom 2 minutes ago, and I'm just about to have another one, and like, and it's difficult. And the amazing thing is that sobriety is the thing that helps you face those things and get through them, and to look at difficulties head on in the face, sober, and deal with them on an emotional level is like, that's the most magic in all of the like, chat about however high I got or however weird it got and drugs that I took. You know, the most amazing and powerful thing in all of it is the ability to like look at difficulties that I maybe suppressed over a long period of time thanks to drugs and alcohol, soberly and in the cold light of day, and gone through in depth until I felt better about buried emotions with that kind of stuff, you know. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough, you know.
Yeah. And we had Adam Firecheck on from Baby Shambles, who said, well, he was talking about a charity called Tonic Music, who are helping musicians in terms of mental health. Is that something you think you could have benefited from, or do you think that's something that is needed for young musicians?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think that anything to do with mental health is absolutely incredible. I think that the ability to be able to discuss things that may seem difficult to discuss with other human beings, adults, or particularly professional adults, is the most needed and incredible thing. And yeah, I would recommend all avenues for the idea of being able to have conversations that are needed on a sort of mental health level for anybody. And luckily, I think that like young people seem to be more up for that than it felt like. I mean, I wasn't up for it until I was like 39. I was having it like on a non-professional level, but when I hit 39, I was like, oh shit, I need to do this professionally. And I should have done it professionally like a long time before I did. And luckily, I think that it seems that the conversations that young people are willing to have, like those opportunities, it's not taboo anymore. You know, it's not like a weird thing to talk about emotions or to notice that somebody's having difficulty with emotions, you know. And I think that's an incredible thing. And all power to any mental health charity and that open up difficult conversations for people young or at any age, you know. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Okay, well, let's try and fire through those questions I sent you then, if that's all right.
Cool.
So let's have a look. Yeah, so in terms of high points then, is there a particular high point that stands out? I mean, 2007 is sounded good.
I got pretty fucking high. I did a bag of drugs the size of my fist that I didn't know what it was. That's a high. I think I got pretty high. Yeah.
Is there a moment that stands out there in terms of?
Yeah, when I was making that French record, I don't think I've ever been higher in my life. Like that's okay. So I know I'll take this question seriously. it was playing with Rihanna at the Brit Awards. I mean, come on, man, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
suppose that kind of, it's obviously a big moment, also represents how massive it got, I suppose, or how crazy it got.
Yeah, just how we said we wanted to be a pop band from the beginning. You know, we went out and we told record companies we wanted to be a pop band, and I think we kept saying it. We just kept saying it, and there you go. A couple of years, like 16 months later, so no, not that many. 14 months later, 16 months later, there we were with Rihanna at the Brit Awards. You know, and you know, high points, the record going in with the Mercury Prize, winning, playing on stage with Rihanna, and just all the things that come with pop culture. You know.
Yeah, that must be something that crosses over in terms of family as well. Like you can say to your mum, I'm on the Brit Awards tonight, kind of thing.
Yeah, or more, she's like, oh, you're a musician now. Okay, cool. Since you're 14, I thought you were joking. I thought, when are you going to get a real job? I'm like, no, I'm not getting a real job. I'm on TV with Rihanna now. Yeah, cool. Okay, you get it. Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything you do differently about any of your time, really?
No. I don't think so. No. I mean, you know, the wild ride, the highs and the lows, the whole lot. I wouldn't change any of it. It's, you know, no. I think it's for my ride of it. There's the highs and lows, the whole spectrum, massive spectrum, and no, I loved it all.
Yes. And then obviously I've got to ask you about this story that Ed told us about the Libertines or Pete Doherty setting a fire in your back garden. What was your recollection of that?
Yeah, I have a slightly different recollection. So the Libertines have come back to our flat, and Carl told me, I've been working with Carl a bit, he's a friend of the Chavs, and he told me that this story made it into their biography, which I'm like, okay, so I'm not the one telling this story, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, it's brilliant. But like, yeah, so they played at Southampton Joiners, and we were just massive fans. And I don't know, you know, Ed is like gifted the gab, Ed is like everybody's best mate. And I don't know, it wasn't me that convinced the Libertines to come back to our house, but next minute the Libertines were around our house. And then we were outside, everyone was pretty smashed. And then there was something about going into the neighbour's garden, and there was all this furniture that was taken out of the neighbour's garden, and then a bonfire was started with that neighbour's furniture in our back garden. And my recollection was, all of a sudden Pete Doherty had a lawnmower, and he was like going at the fire with a lawnmower. And then somebody had like jumped on the front of the lawnmower and said, "No, Pete, not the lawnmower, not the lawnmower." That's what I remember from that.
It's a great image, to be fair.
Yeah, you can see it, yeah. And then I was in a band with Carl like a couple of years later. What's going on?
Yeah, mad.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you mentioned you got a story about the Gallagher brothers. Is that right?
I've got a few. I mean, I met the Gallagher brothers a few times, but I thought about that because I read that it was one of your questions. It was like, oh, what's a funny story about the Gallagher brothers? And I got a few, but the one it's not really that funny, but there are some funny stuff. No, they're mostly like endearing, the things that I've experienced with the Gallagher brothers. And like, man, you know, I was the biggest fan of Oasis growing up. You know, I've seen them like 3 or 4 times in the mid-90s, and just can't believe it. And even to have conversations with those people, it's just mind-blowing. But I thought about it. I was like, which story can I tell you about the Gallagher brothers? And the one that I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, that makes sense, is that one night I'd gone to see the Martin Scorsese movie Shine a Light, and there was like the premiere of that movie, the playing in Trafalgar Square or something, and I walked in there to go into the cinema, and I looked around, and before I would go in because it was still on, and coming down the stairs was Andy Bell and Liam Gallagher. And I was just like, oh, this is amazing. Like, what a point in time. But I want to go see this film, but I want to hang out with Andy Bell and Liam Gallagher more than I do any of that. So I stood there, and Andy came over to me and was like really sweet. And then Liam came over. I think it was like the first time I've met him. And he was like, come on now, we're going to the Met Bar. Like, come to the Met Bar with us. I'm like, fucking right, I'm coming to the Met Bar with Oasis. Like, you know, I'm the biggest fan. And I remember being in a taxi on the way to the Met Bar with Andy and Liam turned around to me and said, "There's 2 things in the world that my son likes." I was like, "Oh yeah," and he said, "SpongeBob SquarePants and Klaxons." Fucking hell, mate! And that was it. I was done. I was like, "Okay, I've done this." Like,
Excellent.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the tale I thought I would tell you about that. And I don't know whether Liam was still standing up to his son up in class the days, but he's a very, very sweet man. I've had some incredible conversations with that man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Farish from the Horror said, is like beneath like the kind of bravado is like quite a, yeah, like you said, a bit of a sweet person, really.
He's a very sweet man. I've had some mind-blowing conversations with that man. Yeah, but my story that I'll share is that he said that his son likes SpongeBob SquarePants.
Excellent.